Welcome to Toffee TV. It is the Footy Show daily. Me and Andy chatting.
Back once again for the Renegade Master.
You know what? You're wearing a cap though. I mean, a lot of compliments on your hair last week, and you're wearing a cap.
Well, my hair's a bit messy today. I thought I wouldn't do it, so I thought I'd wear my San Francisco Giants hat.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
I'm not sponsored by them, right?
Why would you be sponsored by a baseball team?
I don't know. I wish it was.
Okay, fair enough. There was no show yesterday, so it's a first chance to react to the Champions League final that was on Sunday. Bayern Munich winning 1-0, and deservedly so. Mm-hmm. They were deserved winners in the end, but Paris Saint-Germain had some great chances as well, didn't he? But just couldn't quite
it was great,
get there.
Yeah, don't be wrong, I think the result was fair overall. But I think Paris Saint-Germain look back and think we could have won. We could have at least got a draw, took its pens. But no, I think it was a fair result. I think Bayern played well, quite smart tactically. I think Paris Saint-Germain were good. Maybe the best players didn't turn up on the day. You need your match winners, don't you, in big situations? And Neymar and Mbappe just weren't at the best. But Bayern Munich full of winners, got it done on the day. Even the young players obviously performed well. And what can you say more than Bayern a machine? I'm sure they'll be in contention next season.
I'm sure they will.
Big Arms FC is the known now.
Well, there was pictures going round.
It's funny when you see things like that, isn't it, of Goretzka?
The thing is, though, like, I've seen a few things going around, like Goretzka and coming up with some people. I was like, they're professional athletes. That's what they should look like. Like, they shouldn't look like little scrawny,
everyone's
wimpy boys. They should look like...
But people change nutrition, you know. Obviously, Germany have had like a great team behind the national team for years, and Hansi Flick's work with the national team, he's probably thought, I'll bring some of the stuff from the national team in here. You know, vice versa, they do it differently. But yeah, you know, Arsenal brought Trav Forsyth over years ago and they end up with loads of small muscle injuries. It happens. You can go two ways. Obviously, they thought Goretzka needed to bulk up a little bit as a midfielder, and he did, so there's no issue with that. Not suggesting anything.
It tends to happen when players move to these clubs. I mean, we always remember Gareth Bale and his
transformation.
When he went to Real Madrid. It was incredible. So, no, like as you said, like, you know, Paris Saint-Germain will be kicking themselves because they did have really good chances. They had, you know, Neymar had a good chance, Di Maria had a good chance, Mbappe has a good chance.
Yeah.
You know, second half they had little half chances, but you know, once Bayern Munich got the goal, they really did suffocate. I thought Paris Saint-Germain brilliantly smothered them and really stopped them playing and took the sting out the game, and without sort of anyone really standing out, like Lewandowski at the post, and you know, Muller never really got into those positions he liked to be in, but they work so hard as well, and you know, that machine mentality that you know, has got them. What I mean, how many wins in the end was it in a row?
I think he won every game, didn't he?
26 games in a row, something like that. But yeah, and sadly for Lewandowski though, the only game he didn't score in.
But you'd rather win it still.
Oh,
You know, it was for Kingsley Coman, who obviously was at Paris Saint-Germain before he moved to Juventus, and then Bayern, PSG. He's one of the young lads who they let go probably too early, and that was obviously redemption for him to score that goal in the final. And, you know, PSG, you look at Bayern's team compared to PSG's, I think it's been doing the rounds that, you know, Bayern Munich have spent 160 million or whatever it was, and Neymar and Mbappe with 400 million between them. So, you know, it just shows how you can build a football team against a team of Galacticos and win, you know, win the day, really. I think, you know, it was quite impressive.
What do you think Paris Saint-Germain will need to do to get themselves in a position where they are that team, they are the favourites, because obviously with Mbappe, with Neymar, they've got two really talented players. What do you think they're going to have to add?
I don't think much, because I think they've still one of the best squads in Europe. I think obviously when it comes back to playing normally in the normal time scale of Champions League, I think obviously being in a weaker league such as the Liga is going to maybe affect them. But I think their biggest hurdle was not losing in the final or winning the final. Their biggest hurdle was overcoming those losses in quarters and semi-finals. Semi was the first time this year. They got over that hurdle. They understand what it takes to get there now. obviously on the day it's fine margins, isn't it? Whether you win the Champions League or not, we've seen that over many years. Certain goals at certain points in games. So I think if they get back there next year, I think they've got just as much a chance as they did this year. It's just at the end of the day, I think they just need continuity. I think losing Thiago Silva will be quite big. Obviously, the leader in the team, so how you replace him is going to be interesting.
Do you think they lost the game now, or certainly couldn't get back into the game by the substitutions? Because
Choupo came on, didn't he?
They didn't seem to help, did they? And Icardi not coming off the bench, I could not fathom that out.
I think the problem with Icardi is I think he's a great goal scorer. I think that managers just worry about him overall as a player's work rate and stuff. Bayern were doing such a great job on them. I think you needed to match that effort. Yeah, I would have brought Icardi on, no doubt about it. Choupo-Moting's not going to score you a goal in the Champions. He's doing me wrong. He's done well when he's came on for Paris Saint-Germain, but you bring on your supposedly world-class, in theory, world-class striker to win the day, and I thought they should have brought someone. Seeing you did tweets about it, I thought you were right. He got left on the bench. I'm sure his wife was very happy about that.
She'll be absolutely fuming, won't she?
Well, he's just signed for them, hasn't he, permanently, so we'll see how that goes, but yeah, I think Paris Saint-Germain, I think they're in a good position going forward. I think obviously the best player is only 22 years old, 21, 22 years old. So they're still in a great position. We'll see what happens
next season. It's interesting for them though, isn't it? Because it's a weird situation because really this is the beginning of their season now.
Yeah.
They had that long break, come back with, I think they played a couple of French Cup finals after a couple of friendlies. Then they had the Champions League. Now this is their season's back. They think they're back.
Well, they could start on the weekend, didn't it? Yeah.
So...
Liga, so they're back this week, yeah.
They're back this week playing normal football.
Their pre-season
was the Champions League. So they've got the rest of the season now. So there's no layoff for them. There's no break for them. They've got to go straight back into it, mentally get themselves sorted. That'll be really interesting to see how that develops. Where they'll get break. I mean, they've got the players obviously to let some of those players maybe have breaks. But that will be really, really interesting. When we get to the latter stages of the Champions League for this season coming, it'll be interesting to see mentally where they are.
Yeah, it's how you get over the loss of the final. They come so close. Obviously, whether they can start to kickstart, that'll be Tuchel's big main job, isn't it? How to get them back, and it could go one or two ways. They could, they could play, go easy in the first couple of weeks and not pick up results, or they could come back with a vengeance and start destroying teams left, right and centre. So we'll see, I think Bayern Munich, on the flip side, I think they're in a really healthy position. I do wonder how they're going to transition away from Neuer, Boateng eventually. Maybe that's not now, but you're going to have, and Muller, you're going to have to do that next couple of seasons. Obviously, they've signed Alexander Nubel. They've also got Pavard and Lucas Hernandez ready to step in for Boateng. So they're in a good position that in terms of that. It's just that, it's what I call it, and this is an American phrase, it's called the disease of more. It was coined by the former Lakers and Miami Heat coach Pat Riley, where after you win a title, or when you win things, you substitute players up. You want more money, you want more contract. Look at Thiago Alcantara. Looks like he wants to move. He's just won the biggest trophy in European football, but he wants a new challenge. He wants maybe more money wherever else he goes and bang. And that's called the disease of more teams. Or when you win something, you always want more. And it's the balance in that and how you create a dynasty. Can Bayern create a dynasty? Potentially. We'll see.
I mean, to be fair to Bayern, I mean, they do well all right. For as much as people talk about last season being a disaster, they still won the league the season before last. Then they've just won it this season. Now they've won the Champions League. So in terms of Champions League, they've turned around. Yes, it's their first Champions League I think they've won since
12, 13.
Yeah, so 7 years. But they've got the likes of Sane coming in.
That's what I mean. So they're well positioned. It's just how you integrate that in your transition. Because obviously Nubel's obviously come from Schalke. He's not going to sit on the bench the next 5 years behind Neuer. He'll want to play. And it's how you manage that as a squad. I think Hansi Flick's obviously done exceptionally well. He's came in and united a team that was probably quite fractured. If you listen to the players talk, they talk about a brotherhood. A lot of the young players came through the German national side together. To do. I think Bayern will be really strong favourites for next season because I still don't think the Spanish clubs, maybe we'll see Man City because they spend a lot of money. I still think Bayern probably the preferred favourites though.
Yeah, I still think that, and again because it's sort of all part of the same thing, and their season starts I think on the 18th.
Yeah.
So they've got that week extra break, so the players will all go away now, and be back ready for it. I can only see them going from strength to strength. And the thing about what them is, I understand what you're saying about that is, but I just feel like the mentality their players have as a squad, as a club, as a nation, they just seem to be ahead of everything else, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I feel like if anyone can keep it together, if anyone can keep the demons away from the club, I feel like it's them. I can understand Thiago wants to go, 29, new experience, Premier League, I'm sure if he goes to Liverpool, they'll be offering him a fortune, and also, he will be a key player for them. But I think if any club has got a mentality where there doesn't seem to be any kind of egos at the club at all, you've got all these amazing players, but you all seem to be very, very down to earth. I mean, you've seen the kid who played Alphonso Davies.
Yeah.
Seen him on the evening of the game, basically celebrating just as much because Drake had started following him on Instagram, and I just thought like that's like a very down to earth thing. You think he got like a thank you message off the Prime Minister of and he basically said his message was, thank you, can I come home for a week? Like, you know what I mean? There just doesn't seem to be any egos at that club at all.
I saw someone say, apart from obviously hockey, worldwide, Alphonso Davies is probably the biggest sporting star Canada have ever had, realistically. Obviously they've had ice hockey players, but that's their national sport. Ben Johnson obviously ended in disgrace in the 88 Olympics. But apart from that,
Gretzky's the biggest, isn't he?
Gretzky's the biggest, but in terms of a worldwide star, because ice hockey is a very North American sport, Alphonso Davies is probably the biggest star they've had. So I think it's great. I think it is his story of how obviously when what clubs were told about him, they ignored the fact that he was available. Bayern spoke to him until he turned 18. You convinced him to come, and he came, and it was a bit of a rough start there. They didn't want to show where his position was, and then now he's probably one of the best left backs in the world because he's so devastating. It's a great story. I think, if anyone wants to listen to more about Bayern, there was a great interview with Rafa Honigstein on the Unseen Chapman podcast today, and he discusses how Bayern have changed the way they do transfers. They buy players younger now because they missed out on De Bruyne and Sané. They buy players younger now, and they use a lot of them for less money, and they use the money that they save on buying players younger to pay the peak players and older players, and say Bayern can win things, stay here. So I think that's quite good. They don't want Bayern to be a stepping stone. I think that conscious, as you talk about, they're quite a smart club in the way they strategise and think about things medium and long term. I think, yes, they probably will avoid the curse of disease more, but you never know.
Interesting. I think they've got a great chance going forward. Chelsea look like they're going to do some business. Havertz, Chilwell, Thiago Silva.
Lang Sabri will be a loan out, so yeah.
They obviously know there's a problem with defence and they're going for it.
Well, yeah, Chelsea have looked at it. I think that Roman Abramovich has understood that they had to take that year off. They've allowed Frank Lampard to play the younger players and build the side, but I think he wants to be back in the big time. He senses an opportunity that it's time that you can spend this money and you don't have to spend as much. I think Chilwell, if this was a normal year, would have cost them probably 20 million more. I think it's smart. You've got to be smart. I think they've, as great businessmen do, you sense an opportunity in the market. Maybe when a business is failing, you can buy them on the cheap. I think they're going to be able to sign players for really, really good values. So I think and that's what they're doing. They're looking at the problem areas. They've signed a lot of forward players. Now it's time to. They'll probably need maybe another defensive midfield and a centre back, and that's what they're looking at.
They've got problems and they're addressing them, and I think that's the big thing for me.
They're in a position though where they can. Chelsea are one of the two clubs in England who can pay three maybe, including Manchester United, but Manchester City and Chelsea can pay cash up front, and that brings prices down because no teams can pay cash up front really in this country. That's why other clubs like Everton and other clubs have had sort of additions, amortisation over 5 years. Clubs like Chelsea don't because they've ran their accounts so well, and also the big commercial arm that they've got. So yeah, I think Chelsea are trying to basically buying the way back into the title race, aren't they? Really, I think that Roman Abramovich senses that opportunity's there to overhaul Liverpool, Manchester City. Maybe it'll be tough for them, but we'll see.
What do you think of Thiago Silva though? Because normally you're quite reluctant.
Different situation. So if you're Chelsea and you think that you want to win things in the short term, then buying players of his age is not the biggest. It's not because you're not looking for 2-3 years down the line where you're trying to build to something. They're playing for what's now, but they're also signing Kai Havertz, who's 21, other Chilwell, who's 23. So they're playing. I understand it from their perspective. If you're a mid-table club and sign a 36-year-old, you're not building for anything. You play. It's one season. It's strategy really. I understand. I think signing him, he might not even play that much. But if you play him just in Europe, it's what he brings to the other young defenders. Obviously, they haven't got any young defenders, but I think it's smart. I think Thiago Silva's a good signing for them. Yeah.
No, that's what I've talked about in the past about when you're signing those kind of experienced players, is that he's just played in the Champions League final. He didn't look like he was off the pace at all.
He didn't struggle at all.
I can understand why PSG are trying to move away from that and want to bring younger players into it. But like Chelsea, they've struggled in defence. They obviously want to bring other players in, but to have someone like him for a couple of years, I think that's a really clever thing to do, because I think they've got experience now all over the pitch. And have supplemented that, and I think that going back to what we've seen before about Bayern Munich, that's something they've got as well. Is they've got the young players supplemented by the experience, being there, done that, and saying. So I think for Chelsea, I think it's a no-brainer, and I think they've got, they have got the money to do that. Don't forget about them as well. Is that before they had the situation where they couldn't buy anyone, they just sold Hazard as well for 100 million as well.
Yeah.
So 100 million plus not spending for a while, getting your FFP sorted. They've got a lot of money to spend, and by bringing, Chilwell and sort of left back, Silva comes in, has that experience, helps guide younger players through. Havertz playing, where he plays, I don't...
10, I guess,
yeah.
And you have Werner up front.
But then, the only thing I would say about that is then that leaves you...
Mason Mount up the team, yeah.
Well, can him and Pulisic play in the same team?
Yeah, Pulisic should play wide, I guess, and then you probably have... Hakim Ziyech. All three of them are more attacking midfielders than out wingers who want to come inside. Obviously, then you've got other players like Callum Hudson-Odoi. So Chelsea can have an interesting mix of players, and I think one of the luckiest things in the world, and they might not see it this way, but Frank Lampard got a whole year to bed, and Tammy Abraham, Mason Mount, Reece James ready for them this summer to spend. They've had like a year's development, and then now they're bringing in quality. So then players have been able to step up that level for a year. I think it's great. Manchester United have tried to do the same thing on the fly, and obviously they signed Bruno Fernandes now. And it does benefit you from doing that, to say, okay, this year we're going to be, it's like a bridge year. We're going to try and take out and develop players, and it's worked out for Chelsea. I think Chelsea will be closer to Liverpool and Man City. Can they win the title? I'm still on the fence about that. But signing players who all under 24, in most cases apart from Thiago Silva, only bodes well for the medium and long term as well.
What do you think it means though for the players, like you just mentioned Mount there, Ross Barkley.
Well, this is what people. Well, with Barkley, I think with Drinkwater, Barkley, Emerson, Alonso. Other players who are going to be fringe players. I think Chelsea will still have to sell them players. Realistically, Daniel Drinkwater's on 130 grand a week, I think it is. He's just got no buyers. They'd love to get him off the wage bill. I just don't think they will be able to. Ross Barkley, you might be able to sell Ross Barkley. I think there will be some... I think Chelsea understand, and this is where other fan bases need to understand, that later in the window, those players will become more... What's the word? More attractive to other teams, because the prices will come down. If you tried to buy Barkley day one, Chelsea might go, we want 30 million for Ross Barkley. Towards the end of the window, they might say, we'll take 23, 24 million, 21 million. So that's the difference it can make. I think that's why the market hasn't really kicked off yet, because you get more leverage at the end of the window. We've seen Daniel Levy do it 150,000 times. Obviously with Højbjerg, they already had the leverage because he said it publicly, he only wanted to go there. But yeah, I think that's why you'll see that Chelsea also move a lot of players out. I think it seems great now that they sign all these players, but I think they will sell on soon.
Interesting stuff. Other transfers, looks like Gabriel's had his medical at Arsenal. Mm-hmm. So that one will go ahead.
Good signing for them.
Pogba looks like he's staying at Manchester United. Looks like he's about to get his new contract.
Good.
Wolves, Maitland-Niles, he's going there, isn't he? And
they've agreed personal terms. They're just waiting to try and agree a deal with Arsenal. I talked about this yesterday on Twitter. I think this is a similar deal in the Iwobi thing, is that they probably do like Maitland-Niles Arsenal. He hasn't, but he's a player they can sell quite easily to put relief on their FFP, so they can bring other players in that they want. It's not necessarily that they just don't like him or they can't see him having a future at the club. It's just that he's expendable because he's sellable. And that's what clubs need to do. They need to have those assets that they can sell all the time. Those fringe players. Liverpool have obviously done it, with Solanke, Brad Smith and other people like that, but mostly to Bournemouth. And it helps you alleviate that FFP, having those sellable players. When you're trying to sell 29, 30-year-olds, 31-year-olds who no one wants, much different case. It's much harder to sell. So I think Maitland, I don't understand it from Wolves' perspective. If they're going to groom him as a right wing back to replace Matt Doherty, okay, yeah, that'd be a good idea. As a centre midfielder, they've already not been shown that they can't really work Gibbs White, who's gone to Swansea on loan stay into the team. I don't think he's a particularly great. He can be a top level centre midfielder. I think he'd be better at right back, but we'll see. I might be proved wrong. Maitland Niles might be really good at us in centre midfield for Wolves, but we'll see.
But him leaving, I mean, you know, to get him off the books is for Arsenal key, isn't it? And you move players out like that, and then you bring in
Gabriel. You can bring. Then you obviously they've asked about Thiago Alcantara. They've looked at other players, and yeah, well they've got Guendouzi to sell as well, and Balogun, the young forward, they'll probably sell as well. So Arsenal again, because they produce good young players, will be able to benefit and turn the squad over. Wish other clubs to do that.
Yeah, maybe one of the issues that Everton face is that they don't do that.
Well, yeah, the problem is, I think, for clubs like Everton, is that if you skew buying older players, you end up with players you can't move for money. And, you know, we look with Lookman and Vlasic, how quickly and easily we sold them too. It's because they were young and people still thought they had potential. You know, whether you believe that they had potential or not. Other clubs will believe that. It's very hard to say, well, Sandro's got potential when he's clearly failed at multiple clubs.
Some questions before we go.
Yeah, good.
Round our way says, do you see Leicester and Wolves fighting for top 4 again next season?
Yeah, there's only. I think that the issue for clubs fighting for top 4, I think Manchester United probably will sign Jadon Sancho, and Chelsea obviously. I think it's going to be tough to get top 4. I think between 4th and 7th, there's going to be a battle between a number of clubs. Yeah, I think obviously Arsenal will be a bit stronger. Spurs, I think we'll spend. It seems to be having money to spend. I don't know how that's possible, but yeah. So I think it's going to be quite competitive. I think there's going to be I don't think we're at the stage yet where the top 4, anyone can finish in like the top 4. I don't think we're at that stage, but I think there's that between 8th and 4th. There's going to be quite a lot of flux, really. I think Leicester might drop off a little bit.
I think Leicester will drop off a little bit.
We're getting to the stage where Brendan Rodgers tends to start losing. The reins start to be a bit looser. And it's big. They won't sign people till late in the window. They obviously sold Chilwell now, and they'll probably sign a couple of players as we go on, but we'll see.
I just think that I think Chelsea are going to be strong. I think Man United are going to be strong.
Arsenal are getting stronger.
Arsenal getting stronger. Tottenham, it'll be interesting to see how they go on as well. I think out of the two of them, I actually think Wolves will be the stronger team.
Continuity.
But then again, though, they've had such a tough year. Can they come back so quickly?
They're not in Europe, are they, this season, which will benefit them. So they could start quicker. If you think about, Wolves, they didn't start the season, but by like September, October, they were in full swing. And Wolves played about 80 games last season, didn't they?
They are a good side, and
continuity helps. You need to
players know what they're doing. I think, like you just said, continuity.
It's whether Moutinho and players like that can keep the level long enough. But Sam Maitland-Niles obviously is a way to alleviate that.
Leicester, sorry, I think Vardy another year older. Madison's just signed a new contract. Chilwell looks like he's leaving.
Got 2 good options to replace him.
They've got it, but the thing about it is, though, they've got it. I know they had a bit of a disastrous end to the season, but they've got to get into their spells where they're like did last year, where they won like 9 games in a row. Will they do that again? I think
the issue at the end of the season is Madison was sitting in the stands. He didn't have as much creativity. I think they need to augment the team and sign players who can come in and play. I think Leicester have got a good squad, but it's quite shallow in certain positions. I think they need to have a stronger squad if they're going to push for top 4 again.
It'll be interesting to see. Round that way also says, do you think Sheffield United will be in around the European spots?
I obviously work with the Sheffield United fan. I've said to him, I think they'll finish mid-table, 12th, 13th, I think, this season. I think they understand. I think Chris Wilder knows well that they need more dynamism in the team. That's why they've been after Anthony Robinson. I think unless they get more, they've got to sign a good goalie in Ramsdale. I think whether he's as good as Henderson, maybe not. I think they'll have a bit of a drop-off because teams will understand how to play and break them down.
I also think, and this is going to be the interesting fact for everybody, I think Leicester are included, there's not going to be any fans early on, and I just wonder how long that goes on for, and how that will affect teams. I think Sheffield United suffered a little bit. I think Leicester suffered a little bit because they didn't have fans in the crowd.
I think both those teams lost momentum because it was in such a run of playing games, and with the gap, lack of fans as well. I think they lost that momentum. It's key, really, yeah.
Gary Ward says, you need quality veterans to work the young guys. I agree, Gary. I'm fully... If they're the right ones, of course, you don't want to just be buying any old players.
The problem is, I think, is what some people miss is, yes, Bayern have got a lot of good older players, but they sign them at good ages, and they age through the squad. And
there you go. Daniel and Carl watching as well. Thanks for leaving your comments. There you go. This has been the Footy Show. we're in like a little bit of a lull, aren't we? I know this pre-season, there's actually pre-season going on right now that I can hear people in the other room watching.
Hopefully they're losing.
No, they're not. They were Jordan 2-2. Brewster scored twice. Charity Shield is this week. Then we're back into the internationals. England squad has been announced today. We'll just very, very quickly talk about this.
No left backs.
So Phil Foden's in it.
Yeah.
Greenwood's in it.
Yeah. Calvin Phillips is in it.
Calvin Phillips.
The possibility is that Calvin Phillips is a good player. However, I think what they're thinking is Jamaica were looking at him, and it's one of those we convince him to play for the team.
Maguire's in it. Obviously, had a couple of little troubles recently, but
King of the bar fight, yeah.
But that's fine. He didn't.
Michael Keane's in it.
Michael Keane's in it. Mason Holgate's not. See, I'm not bothered about it too much, but I just find that really weird.
Well, Tyrone Mings is also in it, by the way. That's another one.
Mason Holgate is just better. And I know Michael Keane had a great end of the season. Fair enough. I've got no problem with him being in the squad. I just find it strange that it's this thing again of like...
Club England.
Yeah, it is. It's this thing of like where England managers do this all the time.
What my issue with it right, is, and I look at Harry Maguire is the England's #1 centre-back, whether you like him or not, he is. There's only 2 players that could probably definitely play with him because he hasn't got a lot of pace, has he? And that's Mason Holgate and Joe Gomez. Would I play Mings next to him? Absolutely not. Would I play Michael Keane next to him? We've seen that before. Absolutely not. So, balance, Gareth, balance.
Very, very strange. Very, very strange decision that. I don't.
They're all left backs as well.
No, they're all injured apparently.
Yeah, but this is the problem, just quickly, is the under-21s have been playing Kyle Walker-Peters at left back. When you don't play left backs at left back, you've got no one to come in behind them.